This is Private Practice. It's almost 1 p.m. on Friday the 28th of August, which means next week it's spring, which means it's nearly summer, which means winter is gone, all gone. And I'm not wearing 30 different layers today, which is kind of nice and refreshing for me. So I didn't tell anybody I was going live, so ta-da, here I am again, hoping that somebody in Australia is having their lunch, or I just pop up in somebody's newsfeed and they go, oh, I want to hear what Joe has to say today. So we made it to Friday, and Fridays historically have been Celebration Fridays, which is pretty darn awesome. So what are we celebrating today? Well, I'm celebrating some sense of feeling a little bit like my old self, like the way I was before chemo decided that it needed to invade all of the healthiness that is in my body. Hello, Linda. Oh, Cindy, hello. So this last week I have started to feel a little bit like my old self, and I've been posting and sharing about that, and kind of having a bit of fun, poking fun at myself, particularly around my overachieving over just wanting to do all the things all at once. This journey with the chemotherapy is not pleasant, and I've got one more week of feeling pretty darn good about myself before we let the chemo go in and do its little munchy thing, and then we're done with the chemo. So that is pretty awesome. Something else I'm celebrating today is that I was finally brave enough to share publicly an open letter to health professionals everywhere that I created a couple of months ago. If you were one of the smart people who engaged with Dee Diaz's Grief and Loss online summit, you would have had access to it. But it's been on my purplecode.com.au website for that entire time. I just felt such an incredible vulnerability hangover about what I had written that I hadn't shared it. So this week it has gone out as an email to people who are on my joemuirhead.com email list, and I've had some rather great, lovely, fantastic, affirming, encouraging responses from health professionals who get what I'm trying to do, which is to help us as health professionals understand the way we work and its contribution to a patient or a client's sense of loss. Thank you, Cindy. I felt very empowered writing that letter. But then I also felt a sense of, oh my God, what if all the people hate me? Because, I'm human. And this whole thing is I'm being really vulnerable, a lot more vulnerable in this, what I'm going through than I expected I would. And there's still quite a lot of me that goes, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have shared that. But it is my hope that that letter is shared, that it empowers us as health professionals to go, ooh, what could I be doing differently? And I had no idea that that's what was going on. And also to give our clients some language, some ways that they can actually start interacting with us, because sometimes the way we communicate as clinicians to clients or patients, well, what I'm going to be talking about with Ernesto on Monday is how that whole conversation has changed, and we really need to be aware of those changes if we're actually going to have the impact and the type of influence in people's lives that we really want. Hello, Carol. Oh, you'll love my letter. You'll go, Joe. We've been talking about this for years. So one of the things I wanted to speak into today is I wanted to share with you a really great resource. Now, this is written by my favorite, online person, Nicola, which many of you know and love. But I want to share with you her new book. You may be aware that I emceed her book launch, her online book launch last Friday. And in preparing for that, I thought, actually, everybody needs to know why I think this book is important. So I've got some notes, and I'll be referring to my notes so I don't get all scattered and all over the place. So this is what the book looks like. Now, yes, Nicola is my friend, and I would support Nicola in whatever she was doing, but I wouldn't, necessarily use this space here for This is Private Practice to talk about a book I didn't find useful. I also love Nicola enough to know that she wouldn't write a rubbish book, because there's plenty of rubbish on the market, and I would not encourage you to do the work that is recommended in this book if I didn't know it was going to help you. So I think what most people go to Nicola for is thinking they're going to get help with their social media content and their content strategy. And many of us have kind of come from a belief that if I just throw out a social media post once, then, you know, all the good things are going to come to me. One social media post equals online gazillion-dollar revenue, and I am now sitting on the beach with my laptop doing fun things. And you might think, Joe, you're exaggerating, but how many of us have actually put up a social media post and had no interaction on it at all? How many of us have launched things and had no interaction with it, or nobody buys your thing? Me. So what we don't understand is all the work that needs to go on before we get to the point of writing a social media post. Now, I actually read the book, and what I want to show you is before you actually get to the point where Nicola says, now we will write some content, you actually have to go through this much of the book. It's 187 pages of a 233 page book. So this is all the work that needs to be done before you're ready to actually become visible, before you're ready to actually create content that matters, before we're ready to actually create content that is going to provide us with the influence that we're looking for. So most people just want to outsource their social media, and I hate hearing that, because if you're doing that and you've never learned how to engage online, you are selling yourself friggin' short. What we don't understand, or what enough people haven't quite gotten a hold of, is that Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, they are our PR companies. Back in the day, companies used to spend a lot of money on print advertising. Remember newspapers and magazines, or letterbox drops that we all used as fire starters or budgie cage liners. Or we used to pay, my dad used to buy radio advertising to promote our business. There was a lot of radio advertising, and we got to listen to, you know, his radio ads. Or television advertising. And they were big budgets. They were a lot of money. You expected to sink a lot of money into that, and you kind of hoped it was going to work. And if you had a television budget, then yeah, you knew what you were doing, because you actually put money aside to get ads on telly or radio or what have you. Well, since Facebook has become a PR machine, it's actually led the way for these other social media platforms to do the same thing. And that gives us as business owners a heck of a lot more control, and a heck of a lot more ownership over our budget. But we need to be starting to think about them in exactly the same way. So I know that many of us like to go to Facebook and talk about what we ate. We like to rant about political things. We like to fuel the flames of all the conspiracy theories. But have you stopped to think about how powerful Facebook is as an engine to actually get your message out to the right people at the right time? Now, during the launch last Friday, Nicola got us to do some work around how many people, how many active users are there on Facebook in any given day. So I encourage you to go and Google that, because the numbers would astound you. So Google how many active users on Facebook on mobile in a given day. And what we discovered is that the population of people on Facebook outweighs the population of China and India and the USA. So if you want to sit here and tell Nicola, like I did for years, my people aren't on Facebook, well, she's actually got good reason to say you're lying. So it's up to us to learn how to use these mediums well. And that doesn't mean knowing all the algorithms. That doesn't mean understanding what pixel goes where, if pixels are still a thing. That means understanding how you raise your visibility. You need to have something to say. You need to have something to say to people who want to listen to it. And then you need to go find those people. Ta-da! Now, that seems like a very simplistic formula when she's given us 187 pages of content to go through. Okay, it does take some work, but it's work worth doing. And I would argue that before anyone tries to delegate their social media posting to another person, you need to learn how to do this, because nobody understands your business or your audience or your ideal client or your avatar or your unique value proposition better than you. So how are you going to delegate that to another person if you haven't cracked the code, if you haven't worked it out? We have a responsibility as business owners or leaders in our business to actually know how to engage, how to use content to engage with our people, regardless of what platform it is. we have a responsibility to do that. And once we've worked out how to do that, then we can delegate it to a third party. Just throwing up a Facebook post is not going to result in a client. If that has worked for you, then awesome. But I would suggest you test it out, because I would want to know how consistently you're doing it. Same for Instagram. The way I turn up on Instagram is a little different to the way I turn up on Facebook. The way I turn up on LinkedIn is incredibly different to the way I turn up on Facebook and Instagram. And I don't turn up on Twitter because I just do not have the time or the headspace for that. And I am not going anywhere near TikTok. We have talked about that. I have imposter syndrome about TikTok, and I'm just going to leave that right there. I just don't need another thing to do in my world at the moment. But I am, however, starting to leverage the power of Pinterest, which I never thought I would say. So Nicola's book is called Into the Spotlight. You can get it at thenicolamaras.com. I will put a link in the comments below. There's a workbook that goes with it that I didn't get ready in time for this video today. So it sucks to be me. But I just want to make sure that people understand the power of the social media platforms that we have in front of us. Now, the whole concept of being visible made me feel really nauseous. I avoided this for a very, very long time. I still avoid this. I don't like the idea of being in the spotlight. In fact, I'm like, can we put my spotlight on all my clients? They are the ones who do the work. And I cannot tell you how many health professionals say that, because we all say it because it's all about our clients, right? Right. Our clients can't find us unless we put the spotlight on ourselves. That was one of the big messages that I had to get over that allowed me to start communicating and using the medium that we have in front of us. So I'm going to encourage you, over the last week or so, I've been really passionate about why we're doing this. Why we really need to engage with why we are doing this. If we are not looking after ourselves, we can't look after our clients. And our clients are crying out for us, yet they don't know how to reach us. The way we used to communicate with them is not necessarily working anymore. I'm going to talk about that in my webinar with Ernesto next week. So once we can get tapped back into that conviction piece, that passion piece around, holy crap, I can help more people if I start talking about the real pain that they're feeling, well, then we've got to get comfortable with the fact that we need to shine a spotlight on ourselves. And that might mean increasing the volume of your posting. It might mean getting in front of video, of which I'm seeing so many more people doing. Thank you. It might mean expanding your reach on the platforms. It might mean you need to learn how to do Facebook advertising or sponsored posting. It might mean that you need to go learn how to do Google AdWords. There are so many things at our disposal. But I want you to think about your social media platforms for your business having the power that we had back in the day with radio advertising, print advertising, and television advertising. Because that's what it took to actually reach and get out. Now we can be so much more targeted and specific, and we have these new avenues. And I feel like I am preaching now. So here it is again. No, she didn't know I was doing this. No, I'm not sponsored. No, I don't get any affiliate sales. I just genuinely think that more people need to read this book. So I'm shining a spotlight on the book. Alrighty. I am heading off for my weekend now. I actually feel like I'm having a weekend because I've actually been to work every day this week. Ha! So that is pretty cool. Working very hard on keeping myself grounded and not thinking, I've only got 6 more days until chemo, because that very quickly creeps into my head. So I'm looking forward to being a part of the weekend world tomorrow, and looking forward to coming back and sharing with you again next week. So until then, go be your awesome self.